Shabbat Shalom, everybody. This is Rob Shmuel, Rabbi Stephen Epstein, or Rosh be with you with this week's portion. And yes, this week we have a twofer. You get a double portion, Tazria Metzora, and it's all blemishes all the time. You got to wonder about this stuff, right? And we'll talk about that in a minute. And I say a minute, I've noticed that I try to keep, or I do keep these 10-minute Torahs, as I call them, actually, to between 10 and 11 minutes. And I'm starting to notice more and more that I do a little bit of commentary prior to discussing the actual Parsha, and I'm finding that the commentary is starting to get longer and longer. Nobody said anything, and I know I have a lot of people that look at these, and again, thank you very much. But I'm going to try and pare those down a little bit, keep them to a minimum. I keep taking my glasses off. I got these new glasses this year, and these are what they call transitional. So when I go out in the sun, they become sunglasses, which I really like. And sometimes I have to look at it and make sure when I'm not indoors, they're fully glass, and you can see my eyes and otherwise whatever. So okay. Um, so the commentary these days is basically the same thing. There's a war going on in the Middle East. We're waging a war against Iran, and I'm sure a lot of you have different opinions about it. Maybe y'all have the same opinion as I do because you're following me. I don't know. Personally, whenever something like this happens, I always like to liken it to what's going on in the Torah. Now, in the Torah, we have various discussions about Amalek. So Amalek was a tribe of barbarians, for lack of a better word, that when the train of Israelites was passing through the desert, the stragglers were coming last. We're talking about the younger kids, the older people, people that were going slower, that were allowing the other people in front to like advance for them. And they were attacking the weaker people. And God just found that abhorrent, and he said, attack them, wipe them out. There's even a special um, Shabbat, Shabbat Zachor, where we specifically read that Maftir portion. There's other portions that say remove the Hittites, the Hivites, the Gargashites, the Canaanites from the land because they are abhorrent. And if you have looked at the Hertz Chumash, the Chumash that was edited by Rabbi Joseph Hertz, who was the chief rabbi of the English Empire in the middle of the last century, you will see that there's archaeological evidence to support the fact that these people too had abhorrent religious practices. Very, very cruel people. So it's kind of like ridding them. So is this the modern equivalent of that? And I would give you the premise. And again, you decide. I know that people have different opinions. Well, that's back then. This is now. We have better laws and rules, or do we have better laws and rules? Who knows? I'd like to think we do, but our technology has advanced a lot faster than our morality. People talk about what we used to call UFOs, unidentified flying objects, aliens from space coming down and looking at us. And people say, are they going to contact us? And my thinking is no, and no, they shouldn't. And we should not be involved in other species until we figure out what's going on in this planet. Maybe I'm being ahead of myself. Maybe I'm arousing conspiracy theories. But I look at the time when there's, like, we have the United States of America, that we have the United Countries of Earth, and we have a world assembly. We have a world government. Now everybody does their own thing, but the human race is a species that lives in peace with each other, and we have a greater purpose. I would love to see that. Uh, I'm 70 years old. I would hope that I live to see that. I really would. I'd love to see perfection on this planet. Okay, speaking of perfection, let's talk about this week's portion, Tazria Metzora. Again, all blemishes all the time, and again, imperfections. What are these blemishes caused by? And the answer comes from breaking down the word Metzora, which is a Hebrew word that after the first chapter, it starts discussing these blemishes. Now, the first part of our Parsha, Tazria, and that's from the word zerah, which means seed. And it discusses the purification process of a woman who has just given birth. The woman gives birth to a male. She is in quarantine for 30 days, and then there's a purification process involving, if you've read my blog, you see the picture, the priest and the bird. There's two birds. One is slit, the throat is slit, and they're offered. And by the way they used to slit the throats of the birds, because that's shechita, that's, right here. And that way the animal, it cuts off the nerve, the animal feels nothing, and they die painlessly and instantly. With the bird, they would call it malika. And the priests had a long pinky fingernail, and that's what they used to slit the throat of the bird. Same place, same process. They drain the blood, they'd offer the bird, the other one goes, they sprinkle spring water, they'd let the bird go free, and that's it. And after 30 days of pure, or 33 days of purification, there's a 7-day period, mikvah, and then the woman re-enters the community. If it's a girl, it's double the time. It's 66 days, and it's a 2-week process. Why? Lots of commentary on that. Has nothing to do with the gender, but rather it's because the boy needs to be circumcised on the 8th day. So quarantining the mother for longer than 7 days, they're going to miss the circumcision, and we don't want to do that. So that's why it's shorter for a male rather than a female. So after that, we talk about blemishes, and blemishes can appear in various forms on the body: white, red, yellow, green, seriously, above the skin, on the skin, below the skin, a yellow hair, a white hair, no hair, all over the body, all sorts of stuff, right? All sorts of blemishes. And the purification is after the priest comes and diagnoses, and the person is quarantined outside the camp for 7 days. The priest goes back, looks him over. Things have changed. You can come back. Things have not changed, or they've gotten worse. You stay out here, and then another 7 days go by, and we see if there's an improvement. So, first question: why a priest? Nothing about any medical personnel. You'd think that somebody develops a blemish, somebody develops a blemish today. What do? You take the kid or the person to urgent care, they look it over. Maybe you got mumps, maybe you got measles, chicken pox, hopefully not. You've been inoculated, which I'm sure is opening up another can of worms here, right? Or not. Or they just got a scab, they got a burn. You treat it, and you watch it, and you cover it, and we're good to go. Different thing back then, because back then, why is the priest diagnosing and affecting the remedy? Because it's a spiritual malady. It's not a medical condition. It's a spiritual malady because when you look at the word Metzora, it's the combination of two words, Metzor and Ra, which is bad speech. And that's what the person is doing. They're going around gossiping. They're demeaning people. They're slandering. They're libel. And it's an interesting difference between slander and libel in today's legal system. Slander, it's not true. Libel, it is true. Either way, you're demeaning a person. In Judaism, we make no distinction. You're talking bad about a person for whatever reason. It doesn't work. It's not good, and you will get a blemish. Of course, today we don't do that. We don't have that. Things have changed. We're at a lower level of spirituality. All you got to do is look around the world, and it's a no-brainer, right? Unfortunately. But back then, when they were in the camp and God was the Shekhinah, which is the presence, was there all the time, and you had the Mishkan, and you had, the Ark of the Ten Commandments there in their presence. It was a highly spiritual place. So they were held to a higher standard because of the presence. And somebody mouthed off about somebody to other people, the effect was a blemish. That's what happened. And what happened, and when you get a blemish and you're sent outside the camp, who are you going to gossip to, right? That's the reason. Who are you going to gossip to? So it's basically, here you are spreading wildfire among people, and now you're in a place where you can do no harm. And one would think that it takes a week for a person to sit there and think, wow, I guess I really blew it. I'd better change my ways. And if they don't change their ways, well, the blemish stays the same, or it doesn't remedy, and they have to endure another 7 days in quarantine. And that's the way it is. Now, in the Daf Yomi, which is the daily reading of the Talmud as we go through the Talmud, In the tractate Menachos, which is the plural of mincha, which is the grain offering, and it goes into a lot of different things. There's also a part in this parsha where it talks about blemishes that appear in the on the house walls, on the utensils, on clothes. And when a blemish starts on a house and the priest comes right away and removes the brick or removes the blemish, it's to preserve, and this is the Talmud speaking, or the sages in the Talmud speaking, it's to preserve the treasure of the Israelite, because the Torah wants us all to be rich. So by doing that, they're taking it away before it gets spread and ruin a person's belongings. Because if it spreads, you got to deal with the stuff. You got to get it out of the house. You maybe even demolish the house. You have to burn the stuff. So this way it preserves the person's belongings. So let me preserve my time here. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed my talk about blemishes, and maybe next week we'll do something a little different. Shabbat Shalom.